It's Easton Podcast, episode 4. I'm George Tekmitchov, and I'm here with Steve the
Big Cat
Anderson. Steve's in Poland. I'm in Salt Lake City. And, Steve, you're at the World Cup in Poland. It's going on right now. It started out with the qualifying round for the recurves. The compound qualifying round's taking place. And we're going to talk to you in a little while about how you shot. But what about those American recurve guys, number 1, 2, and 3? Colin, Sean McLaughlin, and Brady Ellison. What's up with them?
Yeah, those guys, they were actually 1, 2, 3, 4 at the half, and then Zach just fell off a little bit. He finished 7th overall.
Zach Garrett.
Yeah, they're all shooting good, shot good scores. I mean, all of them around the 670 mark and above, and they shot well.
Yeah, first place, Colin Klimchek of the United States. Second is Sean McLaughlin of Ohio. Third place, Brady Ellison. Jean-Charles Valadon, world field champion, is 4th right now. Crispin Duenas from Canada is 5th. And then we've got a bunch of good shooters in the mix for the top 10, including Hideki Kikuchi of Japan and Marcos D'Almeida of Brazil is solid 10th place. So how are the conditions looking?
Extremely hot. We're about 36 Celsius. Wind was pretty good. You get some wind picking up here and there, but it's been fairly ideal, around 7 to 10 miles an hour, I think.
Just a big difference, though, temperature-wise, from what we encountered the previous week in Copenhagen.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much twice as hot. So,
is Linda there? Is she feeling right at home now?
Yeah, this is more. Well, I mean, Guadalajara's usually got it pretty nice. You know, they don't get much above 27, 28, but yeah, she's liking it a whole lot more than Poland, than Denmark, as I assume most shooters are.
And speaking of Mexico, Ida Rahman is on top of the recurve women, the London Olympic silver medalist with a 665 score, ahead of Deepika Kumari of India, the former world cadet champion, and then Sophie Planier of France is 3rd. Cao Hui of the People's Republic of China 4th, and then the Americans have made a showing here. Mackenzie Brown of the USA showing up in 5th place. Anna Maria Rendon, another standout. She's 7th. Bombela Leshram of India is number 9, and Lisa Unruh of Germany, number 10. So solid performances from Ida Rahman here in Poland, Steve.
Yeah, Ida was, I think she would have been somewhere around top 10 for the men as well, so she shot really well.
Yeah, she'd be about 8th, I think.
That, yeah, all the recurvers shot at the same time, all the compounders shot at the same time, so there's not nearly as many people here, and we have a pretty big field, so we shot an A-B line, and that was it. So it was continuous shooting. You didn't have to take a break. You know, if you were target A, you didn't have to wait for C and D because there was no C and D. So
just shoot right through.
Things went quick.
Well, the Ukrainians and Russians are on top of the board for the compound women. We have Maria Shkolna of Ukraine with a 693 on the board. Svetlana Cherkashneva is 2nd, and Maria Vinogradova of Russia is 3rd.
If you look at the bracket, if you're on INCO and you look at that bracket, the top half of the women's compound bracket is pretty gnarly. I wouldn't want to be there. The bottom half is a little more manageable. There's some young talent there, but the top half is full of winners. So that's going to be an interesting one.
Really solid. You got Christina Hagenhauser, the world champion, 4th place right now. Natalia Avdieva is 5th. And let's see, Albina Loganova, 2-time world champion, 8th. You got world champion Marcella Tonioli. And ranked number 2 in the world from the United States, Crystal Galvin, who just took 2nd place at the World Championship, rounding out the top 10. But you got a lot of other heavy hitters in the top, I'd say top 18, including Linda Ochoa, your wife, Yasim Bostan, the junior champion. You've got Jyothi Venom from India, solid shooter. Runa Gredeland from Norway. Just a lot of solid performers at this event. So, we're seeing...
and most of those girls you just mentioned, George, are in the top half of that bracket.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
like I said, that one's going to be that's going to be a fight.
No doubt about it. No doubt. Okay, and then finally, I haven't even clicked on the PDF yet. Here we go. It's the compound men. Braden Galantine, number 1. So he's shooting pretty solid. You're 10th. Good job, Steve.
Yeah, and he had a couple 8s in the second half as well, so he left some on the table. But
I guess because he shot a 354, 354. That's pretty darn consistent.
Yeah.
And finishing ahead of the new world champion, Stefan Hansen. Bridger Deaton's third. Mike Schlosser is fourth. Esmail Ebadi of Iran feeling pretty good after the Iranian men won in Copenhagen last week. We got Rio Wild of the United States sixth, who's probably, I guess enough time's gone by now. We can talk a little bit about Rio in a minute here. Sergio Pagni, seventh. Dominique Genet, number 8. Martin Damsbo, number 9. And our big cat, Steve Anderson, number 10. So good job there, Steve. 700 on the nose, huh?
Yeah, it was kind of. I had a really good second game going. Our last end was very windy, and we hadn't had a ton of wind the whole time. Nothing that wasn't manageable. And then the last end, a bunch of us got caught. I shot a 55. Rio shot a 55. So it's kind of left a sour taste in the mouth to finish the round. But 700 is never a bad score.
No,
so.
It's awesome. It's awesome. And you're in there with some great company. You've got Peter Elzinga also with a 700, and Demir Emagakli of Turkey with a 698. Let's see. Alexander Dambayev also with a 700 there. So really good shooting on your part. And, it'll be really good to have you back in the office. We're happy to see your performance there this week. Let's talk a little bit about the deal with Rio, because everybody and their mothers had a chance to weigh in on this by now. And we did promise our listeners that we'd say something about it. And look, first of all, let's reiterate, this is a horrible thing to happen to anybody, and it wasn't only to Rio. We had a total of 3 shooters sign for an incorrect score at the World Championships and lose 100 points as a result. Unfortunately, in Rio's case, it took the American team out of contention, and he's got to just be feeling low about that.
Yeah, something I heard this week, and whether this is true or not, I don't know, but there was somewhere around 126 scorecards that had errors on them, and they were signed.
Yeah, I know that's a rumor that was going around. I can't say whether that's credible or not, but we do know there were 3.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to hear, but yeah, there was obviously he signed a scorecard that looked like it said 200 and whatever points, and it was supposed to be 300 and whatever points, and they docked him 100 points, and it eliminated him from the tournament. He didn't make the cut. Therefore, the U.S. men's team didn't make the cut, and that's kind of a rare occurrence. I can't think of the last time that ever happened. So yeah, it was.
The last time it happened involved a disqualification because of another incident back in 1997, but. That was an indoor tournament, a world indoor, and one of the Americans had tested positive for the use of beta blockers. That's the last time I can think of anything like this. And of course, no cheating happened here, nothing like that. But that's the last time that the Americans were not on top of a podium or in contention for a podium at a world championship.
Yeah, at least competing. So yeah, it's strange.
Well, it's the same thing. Keep your head down and keep the arrows pointed north, and I know you're going to come back with a medal.
I sure hope so. That would be ideal.
Well, we're going to shift gears for a moment here. Now we've got a special guest with us. It's Mark Pezzoni, president of Easton Technical Products.
Well, thanks. It's going to be fun, I hope.
Yeah. One of the great things about the podcast is it gives people a behind-the-scenes look at the company a little bit. And we've talked, Steve and I have been talking about various things at the various events that we've been to. We're recently back from Copenhagen at the World Championships, and you were there. We want to get your thoughts on that. But I think this is a great opportunity to first introduce you to the listeners today. And so who is Mark Pezzoni? Mark Pezzoni, number 1, is a bow hunter.
I am a bow hunter. I actually grew up hunting in Pennsylvania. I had my first firearm. I think I was like 8 or 10 years old when I had a little .22 I used to plink with. And then started hunting small game first with a shotgun, and then graduated into hunting deer first with a rifle. But my earliest experience with archery was I actually flung arrows at a cardboard box in my backyard with a little, fiberglass type bow that and shot Easton arrows, believe it or not, way back then. So that's how I got started in archery. And it was in my late 20s, early 30s, around there, when I really got into archery hunting for big game. And I loved it.
And it has been a lifelong passion of yours.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. I mean, just the challenge that it took in order to take a big game animal with a bow versus a gun really fueled me. So I love the fact that it was tougher. I had to learn how to be a better hunter, how to get closer. Loved every aspect of archery. So, and I love it today.
And I see you often after work, shooting, working on your form, working on practicing, working on getting everything perfect.
George, my form needs a lot of work. That's
well, I think all of us can relate to that idea.
Okay.
But, you do shoot a lot, and you enjoy shooting.
I do, and it's relaxing to me, actually. So, when I practice, I can concentrate on executing the shot. And one of the things, in addition to just the fact that I feel like I'm realizing a primal drive within me to hunt, the other thing archery hunting does for me, it's one of the few things that takes me away from life's daily problems. I mean, when I'm archery hunting, I don't think about anything else. I really feel that I have to concentrate truly on what I'm doing, turn on certain parts of me in the way I think, the way I sense things that are sometimes dulled in our society when we go through society, So to be a good hunter, you got to turn those things back on.
It says a lot for our sport that somebody like you running one of the largest companies in our industry takes the time and is still passionate about archery after many years. I think that's a fantastic testament to the power of our sport.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I really do love it.
Let's talk about Mark Pezzoni, the businessman, a little bit.
Okay.
You joined Easton a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And you came to us from another big archery concern, Bowtech.
Yeah, I was with Bowtech, and I love that. So let me back up a minute. I think it might be interesting to some people to find out how and why I joined Bowtech. I was with another great company, Snap-on Tools, for 14 years and loved it. The thing about me is what drives me in my career and in my job, and it took me a while to figure this out, is I really have to believe and be passionate about the product or service to enjoy what I'm doing. Even though my background and training is finances in itself and in the finance world and accounting does not get me excited. What got me excited was when I was working on financial aspects of a certain product or service that I believed in. And, Snap-on saw that. And they took me beyond the world of finance and started giving me businesses to run. And I love tools. They build things. They're constructive. They're cool. So, I use tools on a personal basis. And to be able to actually make them and see them constructing things and everything really, really got me excited. But then I got a call from a previous business associate that actually took bought the business out of bankruptcy. And
Savage Arms.
Savage Arms. Made it a very, very, very successful business. And he called me and said, Mark, I want you to think about something. I'd like you to run this bow company, Bowtech. And I was like, are you kidding me? I've worked 14 years to become an officer of a multi-billion-dollar company. I'm going to quit my job and run this little archery business? I'll tell you what, he knew what he was talking about, because as soon as I flew to Oregon and looked at it, I fell in love with it. And I asked my wife, and she was willing to, again, uproot and take on the challenge at Bowtech. And I really, really loved what I did there at Bowtech. It was awesome.
It was pretty smart of your friend leveraging your archery passion.
Yeah. And at this point in my life, it's fun because I get to choose to do what I want, for my career rather than have to.
Yeah.
Frankly, early on, when I was married at a very early age of 21 years, I was looking to feed my wife and me, and when we had children, feed them and put clothes on their back. Once you get past all that and you get to a later stage, you can kind of be a bit more choosy about what you want to do. So I choose to work at Easton. And I believe it's a really great choice, and that I love my work. I really enjoy it. So
I get the impression your wife still puts up to this day your archery passion.
She does. She doesn't share it. Debbie respects what I like, and I respect what she does. She's a gardener, can paint, very creative. I'm not good at any of those things. But I really, really, really enjoy the outdoors and enjoy hunting, and she gives me that space, which is awesome.
One of the things that I wish I could show, actually we will find a way to show our listeners, because we can roll some still photos on the podcast. You've got rattling antlers hanging right behind you.
Yes.
On the real ones.
Yes.
That you made.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I enjoy making things, and to me, the reason I did these special rattling antlers, just a little bit about them, the antlers themselves are, I cut the brow tines off and then drilled 2 holes in each brow tine, because you don't want the brow tines in the way when you're rattling. I've done that and it hurts. You can smack them together and hurt your hands. So the brow tines act like a little bolo tie that you can adjust the leather tether between each rattling antler. And then to make the grip comfortable, I actually took deer skin leather, and made leather grips. And if you can envision the way you throw a football and you want that, the lacing where your fingers are, I positioned the lacing on the rattling antlers the way you grab them so they feel comfortable in your hand. And so they're not only great utility, they're a great conversation piece. And when people come in my office, they look at them, those are cool, where'd you get those? Oh, I made them. Oh, yeah. And, so you get to remember the deer that they came from, the deer's skin continues to provide utility through the handles. May bring another deer in for me to hunt. It's just cool. I love doing it.
Another thing you've done behind me is your meeting table, and on there is your business card holder. It's a boar's mouth, wide open with enormous fangs, your tusks of the boars. It's a testament to the animal that you're using them for something practical years after the hunt.
Yeah, so it does 2 things, George. One is the animal actually lives on through this thing, through this object that is part of its body, part of its being, that continues after its physical life on the earth is gone. So that's cool to me. And the second thing is I can remember that hunt. When I look at that, whether it be a trophy mount on a wall or a lamp I made out of antlers. I make deer antler lamps, both table lamps. I've made elk lamps that come up from the floor out of elk antler and all that stuff. So to me, it's a living tribute beyond the physical life of the animal, and I just think that's cool. I just like it. And my wife's kind of like, enough with the antler stuff now. But we have one whole room in our family room, and is pretty much that's all I'm allowed to take, and I take every bit of it for things related to the animals I've been able to hunt.
It's about respect for the animal and respect for the hunt, though. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Plus, I love the meat. I mean, just about every animal I have taken, including bear meat, I love it. Some people say, oh, I don't like bear meat. My wife's a great cook, and she knows how to prepare it, and it tastes great. So
let's drag the conversation back to business for a
Sure.
minute. One of the big themes at Bowtech, and continually for 90-something years here at Easton, made in USA.
Oh, absolutely.
You're passionate about that.
I am passionate about it, but to continue to make things in the USA, one of the things I learned at Snap-on, I had great training there in lean manufacturing. So, when I say the words lean manufacturing, some people glaze over, like, what the crap are you talking about? Basically, if I was to define it in very simple terms, it's elimination of waste. So we got a lot of waste in a lot of American manufacturing, and that just isn't going to sustain over the long term in order to continue to make products here, because we're competing against other countries that have much lower cost labor base. And to be able to continue to make things in the States, we got to think lean. So Snap-on paid for great training for me, brought over senseis from Japan with interpreters, taught me the lean principles about how to analyze the manufacturing facility, and beyond even that, administration in terms of elimination of waste. And the people here, once we showed them the tools here at Easton and started really getting on that path, have done some awesome things. And again, what's fun to me at this point in my life is not just product, it's seeing people succeed. The look on their face when they're like, if you show them what good is and they gravitate to good, the smile on their face, the fact that they understand their job has longevity here because we're able to compete more effectively, that is cool. I get jacked about it.
It's making things smart.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the future, of course, is our sport of bow hunting is constantly under pressure, constantly challenged. Where do you see growth taking place in the archery industry in general, not just with Easton or with our specific business, but in general? Where do you see that happening?
Well, I think all of hunting is under pressure. And first of all, if you look at what's happened in order to get permission or find a place to hunt, my personal experience is it's a lot easier for me to find a spot to hunt on if I'm using archery as my weapon versus a gun. It isn't that I don't like gun hunting. I still enjoy it. I still do it once in a while. It's just the perception among the landowners, people that are around, even people that have never hunted, when they find out I'm a hunter, and then they kind of wince sometimes. Some of the non-hunters go, "Oh, you're a bow hunter." Well, that's a different thing. That takes really another level of skill. So they realize the fact that you've got to be closer, you got to know your target better. It requires another level of commitment. So I think that it's easier to get permission to hunt archery from what I've seen on many times in the United States. When you're shooting a bow, it's just easier. Beyond that, another aspect of archery that I see growing is interest in target. I've never been a target shooter per se where I've competed at any level. Thank God for those people that might be shooting against me because they've had an easy time maybe or an easier time competing against me. Like I said, my form's not that great. I target and shot and practiced in order to become a more proficient hunter. So I didn't really think about competition and shooting against another individual. It was me trying to improve and get to the next level, so I became more of a efficient hunter. Execute my shots better, less of a tracking job, more respect for the animal. So that's why I practiced. However, I've had the opportunity with Easton, because we have great presence in the target market, people who do compete. It is awesome. Seeing the level of skill and execution. We just came back from Copenhagen and the tournament. Oh my gosh, you got people shooting 70 meters and putting them in the bullseye fairly repeatedly. Impressive. And people from all over the world competing under pressure, having people watch. And then the color commentary that's done. I never even realized that you got people announcing and talking about these people's background and what the scores are, and just the camera work that was done, with overhead camera shots and shots from the ground. I was like blown away. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah,
absolutely awesome.
A real show that World Archery has put on. What's your impression of World Archery's efforts and their effort to try to bring target archery to the masses? You mentioned, of course, you were impressed, but
right.
As a professional, what do you think of the way that comes across?
I think it comes off as very professional, very organized. And here's one of the things I really liked it, to be a little more specific about when I make those references, what I'm talking about. I didn't find myself bored in the stands. So sometimes, you're watching a sport and it's dragging. They're taking too long between, sequences of exciting parts, and they kept that event moving. I mean, the shooters, shot, and then by the way, it's timed. So not only do you have to shoot at 70 meters, you only have so long to execute the shot, which I didn't even realize till I paid particular attention to the event and got to attend and understand it. So it keeps the event moving. Once you have winners, here's the other thing that I've found torturous in some instances. They drag out the award ceremony to the point where, you want to recognize the shooter, but you don't want to bore the audience, and I didn't find any of that with this event.
It was real quick.
Yeah, it was very quick. Pace was moving. People were engaged. I liked that.
I'm glad you liked it because, I work on target archery over here. So
okay. So you're responsible for all the good stuff. But if the bad stuff happened, it's somebody else, George.
No. I've got nothing to do with the good stuff or the bad stuff. But, I'll tell you, we're all just as passionate about target archery on my side of the aisle as the bow hunting guys. And some of them, of course, mix, right? I mean, a lot of our bow hunting guys are target archery guys, too. Sure. Steve Anderson, for example.
Right.
But, I think they're outside of bow hunting, outside of the United States, Canada, South Africa, the small pockets that are available in places like France, we are definitely on a growth trajectory in target archery, and it's kind of exciting to see, I think. But the other thing
a parallel I see, if you don't mind,
sure,
George,
please.
I want to interject because I don't want to miss this point. You want to find out about me and what I am about and my relationship to archery. Whether you're a hunter or a target archer, I knew this was true of hunting. I didn't realize it was true of target archery until I came back from this event and got to know some of the target people. The camaraderie that it builds. I have relationships that have been formed through hunting that are really, really strong friendships. They're not acquaintance type. I mean, I have acquaintance, type relationships too that have been established. But some of the friendships and bonds as you share a hunting camp, oh my gosh. I mean, the trust level, getting to know the person, the downtime from the hunt when you're not even out there actually trying to execute a shot and take an animal, are just times I wouldn't exchange for anything. And I saw that with the target side. There was great camaraderie. Even though these people are competing against each other, they congratulated each other and had respect for each other's skill level. I watched during the downtime in the hotel or the different, off-hour activity. There's a real bond there on the target side. So I think that's shared by both hunting and target archers.
Yeah, because we've got one thing in common, and that's the joy in the flight of the arrow, I think.
Right, exactly. Well said.
Well, what struck me, what I was going to mention was that, you and I have been shooting 40 years each, and it struck me how young, and therefore what a long future, many of the participants at the World Championships are and will have, because it's a lifetime sport. That's what's beautiful about our sport. It's a lifetime sport.
Yes, and the other thing, one of our strategies for our company is that we have customers for life. And those words are easy to say, but not so easy to have happen. So it's aspirational as much as I hope as it's inspirational for the people here. But why I'm so serious about that is, when I hunt and I establish some acquaintances and have a chance to, have a hunting camp or hunting experience, one of the really cool things is to have kids or even adults that have never tried to hunt before come along and learn, and seeing them, be successful in their first hunt, or even if they're, the success might be just the fact that they came to camp and they had an animal appear, and even if they missed it, they're so excited. And seeing that excitement and having them learn, it just fuels me. I love that. I love that aspect of what we do. And it's there in target archery. I mean, I attended the NASP tournament down in Louisville this
10,000 kids and plus, right?
It was like 12,500 was the count over
Amazing.
3 or 4 days. And these kids were very, very excited and very, very, they not only had fun, but they were serious about what they were doing. And one of the young guys that was really cool that was actually didn't realize he had qualified for the final shoot was on his way to the prom, and he was totally dressed in tuxedo gear and the whole thing as he was going out the door. He found out that he was qualified, and he came back and shot in his formal clothes, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That's how serious they are about it. So he deferred the prom gig for a little bit to try to shoot the finals.
Well, it tells you something about the passion that some of these NASP kids have for the sport.
Absolutely.
Well, growth is something that Easton is committed to. The Easton Foundations is spending millions of dollars a year committed toward archery growth, building archery centers across this country, contributing to the new archery center in Lausanne, Switzerland, being built by World Archery. We are committed, our corporate motto, advancing archery's legacy. What does that mean to Mark Pezzoni?
Yeah, the reason I believe in our vision statement, advancing archery's legacy, is several things. One, this sport has been around many, many years. The idea of archery goes back to the early beginnings of man, huh? So archery's been around a long time. Easton started in 1922. My experience in business and in life is it's really tough to stay around for that many years if you aren't serious and don't make a commitment and don't have your act together in what it is you're doing. So Easton's had that longevity and that test of time. Yet we don't want to stand still, huh? We don't want archery to be some history note in a book. We want it to continue. We don't want Easton, although we started in 1922, to be stuck in the dark ages. So we're constantly looking at innovation in the way of arrows or targets or other things that we bring to market. So that's why that statement in 3 small words is powerful to me. We want to acknowledge the legacy of both archery and Easton, but we're not standing still. We're advancing both. So I want archery to be around and not be an old man sport for just people with gray hair like me. I want young people to be taking up the sport. I want Easton to be around for generation to generation. So I think it's pretty powerful in just 3 words.
Mark, that's a great testament, I think, to the vision of both yourself and our leadership here at Easton to advance archery's legacy. Well, we got the bow hunting season coming right around the corner.
And I am jacked. I am excited.
I know you're looking forward to it. So I'm hoping that I can get your commitment to come back on our podcast and tell us about your next adventure as the bow hunting season gets
Adventure's
underway.
a good word because, as we all know, it's hunting. I may get something. I may not. So we'll see.
Mark Pezzoni, president of Easton Technical Products. Thanks for joining us here on the Easton Podcast today.
Hey, thank you, George.
Oh, it was great to be able to talk to Mark Pezzoni, get his perspective on archery, and a real passionate guy. He's a real pleasure to work with here at Easton. Steve, I know you'll agree.
Yeah, Mark's very easygoing, but at the same time, he cares about what he's doing, and he brings a lot of energy to the table. He's fun to work with.
Yeah,
fun to work for.
super intense, actually, is how I think of him. You say easygoing, but when I see him in a big meeting, he gets so animated and so passionate that it's really it's pretty cool. It just keeps everybody really motivated. All right, well,
he's a great leader.
Yeah, it's awesome to have somebody who's got that much passion for our sport. Okay, we're back looking at what's going on in Poland this week, and it's the last shot for Poland to stage a World Cup for the foreseeable future, because next year it's going to Berlin, right?
Yeah, I believe this one goes to Berlin, and then when do we go to Salt Lake? 2017.
That's right. Yeah, it'll be in Salt Lake City in 2017 instead of Columbia. Which will be big shoes to fill. Columbia's been doing a great job with the World Cup for the last 3 years.
Yes, and this one has been fun. I think Berlin would make a great stage as well.
So at this stage, we've got one more to go after this, and it's starting to solidify as to who's going to make the finals. Steve, you got any idea of what who we're going to see in those finals? You think? At this stage?
It's hard to say on the recurve side because a good number of the countries aren't attending this, so they may lose some points. And then you get a country like Korea who oftentimes they choose not to attend the World Cup final because they place greater importance on some of the other events rather than World Archery specific events.
Yeah, that they're gearing up for the test event in Rio, for example.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird because a lot of the recurve teams aren't here in preparation for that. They'll go to Columbia and then go directly from Columbia to the test event in Rio.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, really, because, it's the same time zone. It's just a better situation overall than going to Poland.
Yeah, and with World Championships having, just passed, there's a number of shooters who have just decided that that's their year. They trained a lot. They trained hard for World Championships, and maybe they're a little burnt out, or maybe the World Cup and World Cup final isn't anything they really had in mind this year. So at the conclusion of World Championships, that was kind of the conclusion of their season. I know PJ Deloche from France, one of the top men's compounders, he's not here, and I don't think he plans on doing any more events this year, which is that's a huge competitor that's no longer on the shooting line.
You think he'll just focus on indoor at this stage?
Yeah, I think PJ's probably ready to, just let his mind clear. It was a tough season for him, and he didn't have the success that he normally does. I think he's just ready to move forward, and I can't say that I blame him. Maybe he has some other stuff going on. I really don't know, but I think we'll see PJ rocking again come first Indoor World Cup in Marrakesh.
We've got some really cool stuff in the works for the indoor season, by the way. Can't say quite yet, but next week this time I think it'll be world news for preparation for the indoor season. Take that as a, what do you call that, a teaser, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, you know what we're doing. So pretty cool stuff coming up. All right, so, a lot of shooters have come directly to Poland from the Worlds in Copenhagen. And some of you guys have been on the road for a month now. I'm thinking of Crispin, for example, because he had Pan Am Games before the Worlds, and then he went from there to Poland. So it's got to be tough to stay on top of it. How's people's morale with this much time on the road?
Oh, yeah, it's been. I mean, just for me personally, George, I think I've been on the road for about 20 days now, and I'm ready to come home. I'm tired of answering emails via iPhone. I just want to get at my desk and hammer out some work and catch up.
Everybody thinks
that,
everybody thinks the life of a person working in archery is nothing but fun. What are you talking about?
Yeah. You know what's fun is sleeping in your own bed once in a while.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I mean the American recurve guys and gals and Crispin, yeah, a bunch of those guys, they're going to be pushing 40 days or so on the road.
Oh yeah,
that's hard. I have a hard time doing it myself. I would prefer to go home at least for a few days in between. I know, like Braden, for instance, my teammate, Braden Galantine, he opted to go home after Worlds, so he went home Monday and then turned around Sunday and came back. And that's tough to do when you got a 6 to 8 hour time change and you don't really adjust back before you're turning around and coming this way again. So you kind of hope to meet your internal clock in the middle and be able to catch some sleep after the first night.
Yeah, I heard from a news story that Crystal Galvin wasn't feeling all that great in the heat, and she's pretty tired. She's been on the road for quite a while, but then, she went to Copenhagen, and she went back to the States to work, and then went back to Europe. That just drags it out of you alone, and then the heat's not so great for her either, I guess.
Yeah, it's roasting hot here.
But she's shooting well, though.
Yeah, she's shooting well. She had, like Rio and I, she had a really tough final end today. She was actually leading going into the last end and then had a really tough end, got caught in some wind, and dropped her to 10th place. So, yeah, she's shooting good. I mean, I expect her, and she's on a good side of the bracket. I expect her to make a run tomorrow.
So Team USA first for the recurve men, for the compound men, and for the mixed team for both recurve and compound. So bet you're happy to be wearing USA on the back of your shirt right now.
Yeah, we shot through the mixed team today. They ended up losing to Iran, so they're going to be in the bronze medal match against Colombia. And then our mixed team recurvers fell to Belarus, who, as Brady Ellison mentioned to me today, he said, you know what, Belarus, you don't see their individuals getting real strong finishes, but as a team, they often shoot really well. And he told me that early on,
right.
And then sure enough, they made it to the finals. I think they're in the bronze match, but they made it to the finals.
Yep, Brady's absolutely right. Yeah. So, okay, well, it's not going to be a cakewalk with Colombia either because, as you know, solid compound shooters, and that will be a challenge, no doubt.
Definitely.
All right, well, we'll look forward to an update from you as you find some time to get back on FaceTime with us, Steve, and join us again. We'll do another podcast before the end of the week so that we can update what's happening in Poland and look ahead at the remainder of the season, because Steve is going to be back in the office next week, and while he's got a pile of work to do, it'll be good to have him back here, and we'll have one more from the road and then one more when you get back to the studio here, Steve.
Yeah, it'll be good to catch up back at home, but let's hope to hammer out one more of these around week's end. So
also,
once we get the finals field set.
We've set up the podcast email address, and we've already gotten some emails about it. And we've neglected to mention the email address for the last couple of podcasts, so I'm going to mention it again. It's podcast@eastontp.com. Podcast@eastontp.com. And so when you get back in the office, Steve, we're going to tackle the first question that we received, which was a good one, came from a listener in Finland. And so we'll tackle that one next week when you get back.
Perfect.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for our podcast right now. I'm George Tekmitchov with Steve the
Big Cat.
The tired Big Cat. You're missing your cue. Anderson, who is in Poland right now. Steve, have a great night. Shoot well tomorrow, buddy, and I'm going to hit stop right now.